Oh, it's been a while. It's literally been a while. I have been on vacation, so I have not gotten to get in touch with our dear listeners to tell them how much I loved the fifth episode of Miss Scarlet and the Duke. It's really funny. I was visiting my parents, and we started watching. My mom and I started watching the fifth episode, so I was like, "Yay!" And then we didn't finish it. So, but I finished it, so I really enjoyed it. So this episode is the fifth of the first season, and it is called Cell 99. Ominous, right? Cell 99. All right. So, all right. To let you know, I give where we're going here. This is very it's a small episode. I mean, they're all small episodes, but this one is to catch you up. At the end of the last episode, Memento Mori, Eliza found a case book in the walls of her of the investigative detective agency. But I am also not drunk. I'm just dumb. And so she's all gun ho that she knows that like something's up. Something was up with her dad. Like he didn't die of natural causes. Like she thinks that he was murdered. But at the very beginning of this episode, we see William is kind of reporting into Superintendent Sterling. And there's a little bit I want to kind of talk about this a little bit. I think we talked about it maybe last time about how Will kind of gets looked over for promotions all the time because he fought in the army but didn't have he didn't have a rank or he didn't have a title, so like he didn't get, because you bought those. So like if you were like second or third son, most of the time you'd go off to war. Your dad would buy your position in the army, and so you really wouldn't see a lot of fighting. But then you could still say you fought. So when you came back and you were looking for a job, you would get, because you were titled or because you had a rank, you probably get promoted to positions that you weren't, qualified for. In this, like, because Will is just, he's obviously not like, he's not upper class or even middle class. That wasn't his upbringing. He doesn't have that behind him, so he's constantly getting looked over for promotion. So he's meeting with Sterling, and he's telling him all of what's been going on, giving him statistics, and he's been working on this, he says, for like days, getting all these statistics together. Fucking Sterling, man. Sterling's like, it's supposed to take you hours. He's like, yeah, no, days. What they've come to the conclusion is organized crime has actually increased. So it's not just like petty theft and stuff, organized fucking crime. So you're, like this, I mean, think about it, Peaky Blinders, any of that sort of like gang stuff. That's what we got going on right now. So Sterling's like, well, good luck, good job, blah, blah, blah. I want you to meet up with some higher ups. We're having drinks at, I forgot what the club is. I didn't write it down. It doesn't matter. And he's like, so I want you to meet us there at 3. He's like, don't wear a kilt. I was like, no, do wear a kilt. Also, we get one beautiful scene of gorgeous, what's his name? Stuart Martin, shirtless. Oh, I could write an ode to this scene. It would mostly just be like some words, and then in the background you just hear a vibrator. Kidding. I'm kidding. Not really. Anyhow, that's wrong. I mean, that's what we're all thinking. Come on. Anyhow, Ivy appears after he's dressed. He's dressed ready to go. Like he's going, on his way. And he's wearing formal wear. Like he's wearing his like an evening suit, like a what the hell is it? Dress suit, like real nice. Like he's wearing a tux, and he looks fucking fine. And in comes Ivy, and Ivy's like freaking out because she's like, I haven't seen Scarlet. I left to see my mom yesterday to go visit her, and I saw her in the morning. I haven't seen her since then, so she's gone. And he's like not as upset. He's like, she just got up early. You didn't, because her bed hasn't been made. And she's like, or her bed hasn't been slept in. She's like, well, maybe he got up and left early. She's like, this child, I've known this child since she was 5. She has never made her bed. She goes, she could barely cook. Well, she could barely cook. So he finds out that she had met with Rupert um, in the morning, and Rupert. So he goes to talk to Rupert, like kind of trying to figure out where she could be, and Rupert, who is meeting with his possible fiancée, if y'all remember, her name is Hildegard. So Tilly and Mr. Hildegard. And Eliza had come to him very nervous and scared about something. We don't know what, but we just know she was not in the right mind. So, but she said she made a discovery. We're assuming it's from what she found in the wall. So from there, she goes to the mortuary, and we get a scene of the mortuary, the mortician, who's just bawling her out, like to William, like, that woman, blah 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 blah. And we found out he saw her about 11 o'clock, and that she wanted to know all about smallpox. Great, excellent. So he heads to the detective agency, and he finds the hole. He sees the hole in the wall, and he sees some glass in the ground, and he's like, I might not be a detective, but be a lady detective. Super smart, but I can put 2 and 2 together. I'm being facetious because Will times makes me so fucking angry. I know it's his character, and I know that, and you're supposed to like, oh, but he says some things in this episode that I want to punch him in the balls. Anyhow, so he ends up having a conversation with the ghost Henry also, and he and Henry says something, kind of gives him, asks him a question, and Will says, why do you always do that? Give me orders, but pose them like questions. And he just, it's a very touching scene, actually, because he's like, you do me a favor, then find my girl. And but at one point, William says to Henry, I miss you every day. And Henry says, I miss you too. I miss you too very much. It's very sweet, but it's really interesting that he talks to her just like he talks to Eliza, or he talks to Will just like he talks to Eliza. So he looks down, he sees that case book is laying on the desk, and something's been torn out. So he sketches on it and finds, what was the name of the prison? I wrote it down. Woolwich Prison, Cell 99. And Cell 99 had been underlined twice. So very important. And so he goes to the prison. It's empty, except for you can hear Eliza screaming, hello! And she's in cell 98, however. And also note the smallpox signs everywhere, which we start to think that this is going to come into play. Does not. It's fine. We've also found that Will can't pick a lock. He's like, oh, I can pick a lock, and can't. Which I was like, well, I mean, I guess, like, he's a police detective or police inspector, so probably now it would be, maybe he's rusty from picking. I don't know. She should. He fucking should, right? But as he says, it's prison. People usually don't, like, they make these so you can't, pick the locks. I'm like, yeah, but still, it's like 1880. And the door is made out of wood. Anyhow, which that I thought was really weird. So she ends up getting herself the fuck out because ladies be doing it for themselves. But my thought was, why in the hell is this door made out of wood? I mean, they do have metal. You can make a metal door. Anyhow, so let's see. In their discussion while he's trying to pick the lock, Eliza finds out he has not said anything to Sterling about her, him working with her, or her working with him at all. She's fucking furious, and rightly so. I was furious for her. And she says something along the lines, he's like, I have to protect my career. That's why I haven't said anything. She's like, and I don't have to protect my career. And he says, well, likely that before long, you'll find someone suitable and nature will take its course. I will be working for the rest of my life, whereas you, and she's like, oh, I'll be married and have children because that's all that's good for me and that's all that I'm good for. And I was like, oh, will I? Oh, will I am. Why do you do this to me? Why do you do this to my heart? Because there's times where I just fucking love you, and then there's times where I want to punch you. And so he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go try to find keys. So he goes downstairs to the key room where they have all the rings of keys, and there's just a dude, just like a random fucking dude with a knife, and they get in a knife fight, because of course. But this guy brought a knife to a gunfight because Will's got a gun. And how did he get the gun? Okay, anyhow, it doesn't matter. But he gets a gun and he goes to shoot the guy who has the knife, and the guy gets him in the arm. So he gets Will in the arm, so he's now injured. He goes back up to try to, get Eliza. At this point, Eliza has gotten herself out. And he's, his arm's all torn up, and it's actually just, kind of destroyed this pocket watch that he had that Henry gave to him. This, that Tempest Fugit, which, time flies, and on it. And they leave the cell after, Will throws the watch and says, you owe me a jacket, because she had to cut the jacket to take care of his arm, and you owe me a fucking watch. Like, that's a bitch. Anyhow, just because he had to come find her. And as he's like trying to get out of the cell, I don't exactly know. I watched this twice, and I'm really not sure why he drops the gun, but he drops the gun over the side of, because they're up on like the third floor. He drops it over the side. It goes off, and he has this moment of like, "Oh my God, are you hurt?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Yeah, okay. How did you drop that? What happened? Did you just have your arm have a spasm? It wasn't the arm that was injured. So I'm so confused." Anyhow, they get downstairs, and they realize that there is, as they're coming down the stairs, they're taking gunfire. And they sneak into a room. So this guy's like, they're waiting for him. And they said, well, at some point they had gotten a shot off on him, and he was injured from, that's right, he was injured from the fight between him and William earlier. And this is the same guy that stabbed him. So he's kind of like, okay, and Eliza wants to do a pincer move, like each go from separate, like opposite directions, and then maybe do a little bit of subterfuge, like he'll see her first, and then Will can distract him. Well, Will just wants to go punch him in the face. So they end up doing a little bit of both, because Will goes to fucking punch him in the face, and Eliza distracts him with the watch and almost gets shot in the fucking process. Thanks, Will. And we find out that this is the same doctor that brought Henry home in the first episode. So he said, well, we found him. He's been drunk for 2 days, blah, 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 but he had a heart attack. This is the same quote unquote doctor. Not a doctor. I'm going to call him a doctor because I don't know what the fuck his name is, because we don't know what his name is. But she now has this thing of keys, and they're trying to get out, because at this point they're locked in with this guy. He's injured to the point he also doesn't have a weapon, so he's just kind of chilling. But he has called his compadres, like he's called all of his goons. And he, one in particular, his name's Garm, starts, it is like he's Jason Voorhees down the stairs, like fuck it, or even, well, yeah, a little bit of Jason, a little bit of Michael, like just lumbering down the stairs. I would say probably more Jason because of the fucking hair, because he's got this long ass hair and this long ass beard. It's like when Jason was growing pot in the remake, when he was out there in the woods doing, God knows what, growing pot, making traps. That's what this guy was doing. But we find out that he was at the age of 6, he was the size of a man. And what a big man. What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man. What a mighty tall man. He's a big shithouse, brick shithouse. And he's also like, not with it. Let's just say that his mom, like, he's probably not in touch with reality very well. When he was 6 and he was the size of a man, his mother just sent him to go to a traveling freak show. So, not doing well with reality, probably, and probably emotional. He's probably not emotionally developed well. Just gonna put it out there. So he's coming down to take these two out, take Will and Eliza out, and she's trying to find the right key to get the fuck out, because she's like, there's got to be another way out of this place besides this door. And as you know, this guy's coming down, he just says, this doctor says to Garm, start with the tart, kill them both. And I was like, oh damn. And at that moment, she gets the fucking key turned, and and she's like, come on, William. He's like, I've never back down from the fate. And she's like, no, this is the time. Get your ass going. Let's go now. And so they leave, obviously, and just in the nick of time, because they close the door, and there's Garm like, ah! And let's see, I'm looking back through my notes. I'm so sorry. They are now, we have this, like, they're trying to find their way out. At this point, it's like a maze. And Eliza gives Will a little shit. They love it, because she's like, well, smallpox, it becomes active again at 78 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a little warm in here, isn't it? I was like, oh, you shit, I love it. Because he's like starting to sweat. Then they have this conversation, and he's like, really, are we gonna get like something? Because they could get into like this one room where they had all the masks that they use when they fumigated the prison for the smallpox, and they're like weird. They're not quite like plague masks, but they're weird like gas masks, precursor to what would be like World War I and II gas masks. And he's like, are we good? Or are we going to die? She's like, no, it's fine for us, because she's gotten all this info from the mortician. And she goes, just, poor rats. And she said, they start talking about animal cruelty. Then we find out that Mr. Scarlet ended up having to shoot the family dog because it got hit by a carriage, and it was not quite dead. And he had to shoot it to put it out of its misery. We think, yeah. And then we also find out that Will comforted Scarlet at this point. This is where we get the infamous kiss. And that's all that's said. It's very, there's a lot here. It's kind of sexy. But then as they're trying to leave, because then they find there's the hole. They're back at the hole that they both went through to get in. And they hear someone's, calling for help. Come to find out, it's this man named Nathan. He's been in cell 99. There's bills, like bills all hanging all over the place. And they're like, the fuck? And they open cell 99, and there's more. And there's a printing press. This guy's been forging fucking bills. So they've kept these two gentlemen, whatever this group is, have been keeping this gentleman down here for 3 months, just making bills. And he's like, I told them I would not do it. I wasn't going back to prison. I've been to prison. I'm not doing it again. And so, in fact, like they go to leave because they start hearing gunshots and like, oh fuck. So they're heading out, and Nathan pulls Will's gun, and he's gonna like, I'm not going back to prison. One of those moves. And Will's like, there's no fucking bullets in the jackass, and he just throws it at him and runs. I did have a little bit of a laugh on that one, but not for long, because as Nathan runs out through the hole and everything, some tall bitch, which I thought was Garm, but it's not, in one of those gas masks in this giant trench coat, just blasts the fuck out of Nathan. At first I thought it was his face, but it wasn't. He ends up getting shot up here. And then he's trained his gun on Will, and Will has no gun at this point. However, here comes Eliza runs up with the other gun and is like, I will shoot you. I will keep shooting. I will shoot you once and then just keep pulling the trigger, pulling the trigger, pulling the trigger. And so it's like a Mexican standoff. And I'm sure it's probably, that's what it's called. Yeah. Anyhow, I don't know. Is that what it's called? Oh my God, am I the worst? Okay. Anyhow, so there's a standoff, and they the tall man. I'm just gonna call him Tall Man. Tall Man runs away, and as Liza runs to Nate to make sure he's still alive, because surprise he is. She's pressing on, like keeping the wound closed or keeping pressure on the wound as Will goes to get help. So Nate says as he's, I thought dying, but I guess not. Well, kind of dying, sort of dying. He's losing life fluids. Says like, I knew your father. You look like him, sweet, kind like your father. And we go back in, and now Will has brought all of the police department, but Eliza's taking her own notes, and Will makes a very pretty sound case that this is the biggest forgery racket they've ever encountered. We find out a little couple scenes later, it's 68,000 pounds, which at that time would have been, I should probably do the math. I'm not going to. A lot of fucking money. Because you think about it, like, what is it? It's in Pride and Prejudice where Mr. Bingley has 30,000 pounds a year, I believe. That was like, or he was worth 30,000 pounds, and that was like fucking millions, like dollar bills, y'all. So 68's a lot. You know what? I'm gonna look it up. Okay, so today would be about 10 million pounds. So not a lot to, bash your eyes at. I mean, I'm sure there are more there's obviously bigger forgery cases, but 10 million pounds is a lot. And again, that's the pound. I mean, I'm sure it's relatively close to the dollar. Anyhow, so any hoozles. He says, because this is the biggest racket they've ever come across, and they've kept a man for 3 months forging documents or forging bills against his will in a cell. They have found out that Mr. Scarlet was investigating, so they not only killed him, but they brought him to their house, knowing now they know where Eliza is. He's like, you cannot be on this case. You understand that, right? And I'm like, even I'm going, yeah. She was like, I'm not afraid. He's like, that doesn't matter. Like, they will come for you if you continue your line of investigation. And he's like, at this point, you are going to be under police surveillance around the clock. So at this point, they also learn that Garm and the doctor have been shot by the what was I calling him? The masked man? Tall guy. The masked man. And so the next scene is Will finally admitting to Sterling that Eliza has been working with him, and that they wouldn't have been able to solve this case if it hadn't been for her. And from what we then learn is that Nathaniel's in the hospital, and he just keeps saying, he's coming for me, and he means Mr. Moses. Directly after that, Mr. Moses shows up at Eliza's house, and she's like, I need you just to give me everything you have or you can find on Nathaniel Kane, which is the guy, the forger guy. The next scene after that is we end on a cliffhanger because Nathaniel Kane gets murdered, but it's definitely not by Mr. Moses. It just isn't. You can kind of tell by the build of the person that comes in, but whatever. All right, I've talked at you for a long time. Let me just tell you about this episode. I really liked it. I really enjoyed. I thought it was. I thought for what it's setting up. It was really good. Because it's setting up. There's only one more episode in this season, I believe. I think there's only 6. Let me see. Let me double check that. Maybe I am rocking the fuck up. No, it's the last one. So I would assume we're going to, we're going to solve the case in the next. But who knows? I'm not sure. And so we're setting up the finale for this season. We see there is a very sweet scene between Eliza and Will, and I think I even wrote like serious eye sex, like yeah, it's very moving. I have to say, like you can definitely tell that it is not just a Will cares, very much cares for Eliza, even though she infuriates him, and same with him with her. They do care for one another. Anyhow, so grade wise, what would I give this? I'm gonna give this an A minus, A minus. Because there's no real like mystery here. I mean, there is sort of a kind of, I guess, but not really. But yeah, I enjoyed it. All right, what's coming up next? So we released an episode last week on The Sound of Madness. And so this week coming up, I cannot remember what it is. But we also have, I just also wrote a review for Tracy Sumner's two Scandals and a Scot, which I bring that up because one, I love Tracy Sumner, but also her book Scandalous Vixen is Rowan, his character Rowan. She has characterized as Stuart Martin, so the Duke. So I mean, because he's a hot Scot and hilarious. I'm looking to see. Where's our episode descriptions, so I can tell you what's coming up next. But yeah, so also check out I have another show on for B3, and we just released the fourth and fifth episodes of The Last of Us review, and I will shortly be doing Adam Driver Shoots Dinosaurs. 65. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. We are doing Practice Makes Perfect. It is an arc, so it is coming out beginning of May, so that will be next for us. All right, well, on that note, happy reading, my friends.